So this is the scroll saw. You're going to use a scroll saw to cut smaller material, thinner material, cardboard, thin wood, maybe up to about a ½ an inch or so, plywood type stuff. Whenever you're going to use a scroll saw, you need to check your 10 points of safety. One of those is wearing safety goggles. And the way the scroll saw works is there's a blade right here that goes up and down, and that's going to cut through your material. This is the guard. The guard should always be down when you're going to cut. That's going to prevent material from coming up and out of the machine towards you. So to adjust the guard, you're going to turn this orange knob right here. You want that guard to be down just above your material, so you want to drop that down and then tighten the knob again. That's going to prevent your material from jumping up and down when the saw blade catches it. On the scroll saw, there's 2 buttons down here. This one is just a light that'll light up your material so you can see it better, and this is a variable speed knob, and when I turn that on, the further I go to the right, the faster my blade is going to go. So before you cut any material on a scroll saw, you're going to want to make sure you draw lines and mark your material so you have a line to follow when you're cutting. I'm going to turn my machine on again. I'm going to go on full speed this time. I'm going to keep my fingers out of the path of the blade. I'm going to hold my thumbs back here. That'll help me push my material forward. And I'm going to slowly follow my line. When I get to the end of my line, then I'm just going to back my material out again, and then I can turn it and go for the second line. So you want to make sure your material is nice and flat on the table. When you reach the end, you want to back out. I didn't catch the corner there. Now, when a piece of material is left behind in the machine, the first thing you want to do is turn your machine off. Never reach in with your fingers to get it out. Use either a pencil or some kind of scrap material. We call that a push stick to push it out to the edge, and then you can get your material out. If you're ever using the machine, it just doesn't sound right, something doesn't look right, the first thing you should do is turn it off and then let your teacher know. When you're all done using the machine, you're going to want to clean up. Around the room you'll find battery-operated vacuum cleaners. Usually the best thing to do is pull out the hose, you turn that on. And just clean up your area when you're done. Whenever you're using the scroll saw, you want to make sure that you check some 10 points of safety. The most important ones for this are your hair is tied back, your sleeves are rolled up, and you don't have any dangly things like sweatshirt strings that could get caught in the moving parts of the machine. So this is a hot wire styrofoam cutter. You're going to use this. The only material you're going to cut with this is the styrofoam. You'll never cut wood, you'll never cut cardboard with this, only styrofoam. So the styrofoam cutter, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn the styrofoam cutter on. You'll see a little red light comes on, that tells you that it's working. And the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn on this ventilation system. This is going to filter out the fumes that come out of the styrofoam. So the way the styrofoam cutter works is there's a very thin wire here, and that wire, when you turn it on, it heats up. And the styrofoam cutter heats up almost immediately, so you don't have to wait very long. You can take a piece of material like this. This is styrofoam. And again, you're going to keep your material nice and flat on the table, and it'll just slice right through. Keep your fingers away from the wire. And that's how the styrofoam cutter works. Now generally you'll mark your material just as you did on a scroll saw before you would cut. When you're all done with the hot wire cutter, you want to make sure that you turn it off, make sure the red light goes off. You can actually leave the vent running for a few minutes afterwards. Any scrap material that you have can go in the scrap box down below. When using the hot wire cutter, you also want to check your 10 points of safety. Your hair should be tied back, your sleeve should be rolled up, and you don't want anything that could swing in there like a sweatshirt string that would touch the wire and get singed. For the scroll saws and the hot wire cutters, you'll notice on the floor there are safety zones. Only one person at a time should be in the safety zone when the machine is being used. And nobody outside of the safety zone should be talking with people who are using the machines. So we have a lot of different hand tools down in the design lab. This one is called the awl, very pointy on the end, and you use this to poke holes in different materials. So for example, if I'm going to poke a hole in this bottle cap, I don't want to do it like this. It's laying right now on a cutting mat, so you can lay it down on the cutting mat and push through. Make your hole. The further you go in, the larger the hole gets. Some people also like to use a piece of styrofoam kind of as a backing, and you can push down and keep going into the styrofoam. You never want to push down straight onto the table. You never want to do this while you're sitting. Anytime you're using hand tools at the table, you should be standing. So this is a vise. This is great for holding the material that you're going to use with some of the hand tools. For example, if I want to drill holes in this pipe, it would be very unstable to do in just my hand. So I'm going to twist it in there, clamp it down, and now that material is not going to move. Get it nice and tight in there. Now that's not moving. Now I can take something like a hand drill and drill in there. Again, you don't want to be seated when you're doing this. You want to make sure that you're standing up. That was much better than trying to hold it in my hand and drill. The vise did all the work for me. This is the Epilogue laser cutter, and what this is going to be used for is cutting materials. Cuts thin materials like cardboard. It can also engrave in materials like wood. This is a machine that your teachers will always be using with you. There's several special safety features in the room. One of those is the emergency fire blanket. Inside of the emergency fire blanket cabinet is the blanket, which is made of a material that is coated with a chemical that is fire retardant. So if the laser cutter were to flare up, you could put the fire blanket on that. Or if a student's clothing caught on fire, you could also wrap them in that and it would put the flames out. We also have a special fire extinguisher that is used only for the laser cutter. It will not damage the electronics. When using the laser cutter, there's three things you want to turn on. One of those is the vent. That's going to vent to the outside world. Down below is a little pump. That's going to push air towards the laser and keep your material cool. And then you can also turn on the actual laser cutting machine. So we have two Ultimaker, two extended 3D printers down in the lab. You'll use a CAD program like Tinkercad to design a product, and then it can be 3D printed out on the machines. Most of those will be approved by your teachers. So when you're using a 3D printer and materials printing out, the plastic can be very hot, so never stick your hands inside. All around the room, you'll find equipment that can be used for cleaning up. And the final minutes of the class period, your teacher will let you know that it's cleanup time. During that time, you should be cleaning up. You have to stop working on your projects. And if you have no cleanup, look around for other groups that might need help cleaning up.